Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Beach FM, and wonderful to welcome back Ward Councilor for Waikanae, Jocelyn Prvanov. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, John. How are you doing today?
Very well. I heard you had quite a community board meeting, which is quite an achievement because you haven't got much of a community board left, Jocelyn. This was a several-hour meeting, I believe.
Yes, well, I suppose it's a case of at this point in time it's quality. So our meeting actually went for 3 hours on Tuesday night, and we actually only had one paper on the agenda as well as applications. We got into some nitty-gritty stuff.
Well, what was the discussion about, the nitty-gritty?
So, first of all, I'll talk about one of the applications that was put forward for funding, and this is from the Waikanae Beach Residents Society. And as part of the beach outcomes, there was one of the items there, one of the 26, was about doing some signage. And so what they proposed to the board was actually developing some history boards, and they provided a really nice presentation on some of the other work that's been done in the area, like Pukirua Bay, for example, have got some very nice boards, and so they've done a very good job. They've talked to Ngāti Awa, Whakaronga Tai Marae, and so they've actually, done a lot of work in behind the scenes in terms of getting all the right people in the right place, and so they were granted a reasonable amount of money so they can go ahead, with the, I suppose, the assurance they've got some financial backing behind it, and when they develop the concept more, they'll be able to come back to the community board and I suppose also discuss this with the community as well.
Good on them.
Yeah, so it's about telling the stories of the history of the area and also and some of those probably community icons as well. They play quite an important part in the community. They often run the meetings for Meet the Candidates, and they're also going to be doing the same for that. They've offered to do the same for that in November for when after the nominations close again. So watch this space. That'll be in November sometime.
Have we got a final date for that or not, Jocelyn?
A final date for what?
For the people who would like to be part of the board.
Interestingly, it's the Tuesday after the elections.
Right, okay.
Yes, there's actually a elected member who's standing for Parliament, and I suspect it might be tied in with that. And if that person gets in, the process might be stopped again, and then it'll be moved out again.
Makes perfect sense. I believe that safety on Te Moana Road was also discussed.
Yes, so this was the one paper that was presented to council. So this has been probably a 2-year conversation with this community board and the previous community board, and so we were presented with a paper as well as a slide presentation, and there were a number of public speakers on this matter. So this paper was for information only, and so there are going to be a few things happening along Te Moana Road in terms of some pedestrian crossing points which haven't been decided yet. There's going to be a shared pathway around the golf course, which is going to end by about the Waikanae Beach Tennis Club. And then I suppose the major talking point of the evening was the change in direction designation at the intersection of Te Moana Road and Rauparaha Street. So at present there's a stop sign as you're coming towards the expressway at Te Moana Road. So basically priority is going to be going up and down Te Moana Road, and so you're going to have to stop going into Rauparaha Street or coming out of Rauparaha Street. And there was a lot of conversations around discussion in the community about that. As a result so there's been a media release put out on that, and I think it's fair to say that everyone in the community wants the safest outcome. As a result of the paper, the Waikanae Community Board agreed on a motion that it noted that the Waikanae residents did not support those proposed works.
So discussion continues, I imagine.
Well, no. So basically, we've been told that this is what's going to happen.
Oh, I see.
Yes, but it's and I suppose one of the speakers and in fact, several of the speakers talked about consultation, how there has been a very small amount of consultation done, but not in the wider community. But at the same time, there are some safety roading changes happening in Raumati, and they've had, I think, 5 or 6 pop-up sessions on that, but that hasn't been provided as an option to the Waikanae community.
Very interesting indeed. I wonder if we can go back to Te Moana Road as a total. You seem to imply there may be some more pedestrian crossings. Was I correct in that?
That is correct, yes. So I think there's probably, actually I'm not sure how many there are, maybe 2 or 3.
There's not enough, I know that.
No, yes. So I think more work needs to be done on the location of those, because it's going to tie up with where the bus stops are and access ways, and getting agreement from the local residents as well, whose properties it may be nearby.
Indeed. Yes, I realise that takes some time. One of the issues with Te Moana Road is that I seem to remember there's a footpath on only one side of the road, and therefore it really means you've got to have, if that is going to remain the case, you've got to have easier access for people to get from one side to the other.
Well, that's exactly right too. And some parts of Te Moana Road, particularly opposite Narara Road, for example, it's actually virtually impossible to have a footpath there. But, certainly we're wanting to encourage people to take the buses more regularly. And if you are going to take the bus and you live on the other side of the road from where you either get on or off, you need to cross the road.
Yep. Absolutely. And people do like to have the wander, don't they? Like to have the constitutional, and that kind of active activity is something to be encouraged and admired. Was there anything said at the meeting about the library, Jocelyn?
Yeah. So just before I move on to that, so one of the ways the bus stops have been organised at present is that I think it's no person should have to walk more than 400 or 500 metres to a bus stop. And so I know that there's also going to be a review of the buses. I think
very soon,
6 months or so, and so all this needs to be tied in.
It sure does.
All this needs to be tied in, and so obviously sorting out the buses, the locations of the buses needs to be done. When these pedestrian crossing points landed.
Yes, we need a good holistic solution. So from your previous response, am I correct in thinking there may have been something said at the community board meeting about the library?
Yeah, so on our long-term action points, there's a standard point there about the Waikanae Library, and as you're aware, there's been a group of a community group which includes elected members and council staff who have been working away on that, and so that is now going to be extended. And so the council staff member who's very au fait and basically driving this process has given us some timelines, and so the aim is to the big picture is the aim is to actually have a design. Well, not so much a design, but having an idea about the cost and the concepts to put into the long-term plan that gets signed off by June next year.
Right.
And
okay.
Which is really good. And so before that, there's going to be some consultation with the wider Kapiti community as well as in Waikanae about just to confirm what sort of things that we'd like to see in a library. Is it actually a community hub?
Sure.
Is it actually solely a library? And so that process will hopefully end by Christmas time, and then there'll be some work done around the budgeting of it, and then so I suppose ultimately will be decided by councillors. But there is a plan there.
Well, there will be a plan, and that's all to the good. Why discussion in the wider community outside Waikanae? Do you think that the kind of role that may be defined for the library in Waikanae could be setting a precedent for what happens elsewhere?
Yeah, well, I think there's two schools of thoughts here. Obviously there's a library, a Waikanae library that's going to be built. but there's also potentially plans further down the line somewhere for other libraries. And I suppose and I think there's probably there's some hope that what is actually there's probably not going to be a lot of difference between what the wider Kapiti district thinks and what Waikanae residents think. And so, this is the general concept type stuff, and they've already done a little bit of work around this, and I think they're just going to go and confirm that.
Okay.
Yes, and so obviously there's I don't know if there's any plans for I don't think there's any plans for any other libraries anywhere else, but each community will have a few little tweaks in the process.
Okay. So you think by June next year we'll have some pictures in the paper, have some idea what the library is going to be doing and what its role will be, the evolving role of the library.
Yeah, well, that of course is if it gets, that is if the process goes to plan. There's a number of decisions that need to be made along the way, but that is what is being proposed at this point in time.
Okay, well, at least it's something, and it sounds as if that is progress. And I think we'll take it, Jocelyn. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. It's been a pleasure once again. Jocelyn Prvanov from of course, attending the community board, but also the Waikanae Ward Councilor. Thank you for your time, Jocelyn.
Thank you, John. Have a lovely day.
106.3 Beach FM.